You were brought here because without you, we can't reach what we want to reach. This you must tell yourself. You have to feel such a responsibility. On the contrary, each must put in his part into the mosaic. Without that, we won't have a full vessel. I have to imagine for myself a state in which my heart and mind, I am uniting with my friends. I need them to ascend above this world. If that's the case, then I swallow, I attain them. That force, which is like a hot air balloon, lifts me up above the world. If I elevate and am included in their sparks, if I live through this matrix of sparks, I see within it the upper world, the world of bestowal. You can't feel yourself, you have to feel everybody. And when we do that, it's not us, it's a single whole. And this is how we have to live. This means overcome yourself. Don't feel yourself. I have no body, I have nothing that I need, that is necessary to me right now, but there's only one thing, something higher than this. We are entering a spiritual dimension and living there. We need to elevate above the earthly reality. Each within himself tries to overcome his desire, like a drop of water. When they gather together, they become one drop. Not just some drops, but one drop. This is the quality of bestowal. And likewise, we have to feel that there's one desire here, one thought, one intention. Let's try to feel that all of us are in one motion. Nobody falls out of it. All of us try to understand what it means to be a man, to be a person and not remain as an animal, to be in this all together. If each would stop working with his own thoughts and desires, emotions, and would enter with everybody into one movement, then the desire to open a person inside of us will evoke motion from the Creator. And then an additional problem appears. After we try to unite between each other, then we come to the sensation that we're missing something, some help from above, that by ourselves we're not able to unite, to coexist. But this lack of ability gives us the knowledge of who can do this for us, and that it's the upper force. And then we begin to reveal a need in it. And this is the way that this is the action that it has to take place inside of us. We have to, in advance, to begin to tear away from our body internally. We have to find the spiritual part inside of us, which is called a person. To concentrate on it, to begin to feel it, to begin to perceive through it reality, as if our body has already died. We must, right now, it's very important for us, to feel as if we're outside of it, so it wouldn't disturb us. And then we'll reach such a state in which we can simultaneously feel and coexist in desires close and far to us, and in spiritual desires as well. But first we need to separate one from the other and enter that spiritual desire that's in the point in the heart, to find in myself that part which doesn't belong to me, a part of the Creator from above which is called the soul. This part we must separate out and occupy ourselves only with that.
Если бы мы убрали из человека его
If we were to remove from a person the sensation of his own body, if we would have removed the body's sensitivity to foreign objects, other objects, we would have stopped perceiving ourselves as well. Right now we perceive the force of gravity. We can't imagine what it's like to perceive zero gravity. It's a special sensation. If you were to stop receiving pressure in your body, billions and billions of atoms and molecules every second, they as if pound on us, and thus we feel that we exist. If they wouldn't be impacting us, we would not even feel our body. the light would not influence us, or any sound. We would not feel ourselves at all. Our entire sensation of life is based on contact and mutual contact of particles hitting each other, molecules and atoms clashing and striking each other, and resistance. The smallest blows of our nervous system, inner nervous system, our optical nerve, the nerve that's behind the eardrum, and so on. Taste, if you wouldn't feel the impact, the clash between the different parts, the different qualities, any sensation that we feel, it's based on two opposites influencing one another. I need to feel something existing opposite of me. I need to contact it in some way. It needs to influence me, and I need to influence it in return. And if there is no contact, we even get mad. We even try to irritate a person if there is no contact with them. It happens in the family sometimes. You need a little bit of a conflict in order to feel even more acutely the extent to which we depend on one another, and the extent to which we are in contact with one another. This all stems from our root. The Creator created the creature, and the creature it needs to feel the Creator in return. There needs to be an impact, clash between them. And the brighter, the stronger this clash is, the more they will be able to enter into one another and feel one another. But this clash must be in mutual inclusion, in mutual understanding, in mutual love. Then they'll be able to give pleasure to one another. Therefore, our unification with the Creator is made on the basis of the so-called zivug da'aka, coupling while striking. But that's the mutual inclusion. And we always feel something, anything, at the clash between two opposites. There is an article in Shemati called "The Prophet of a Land," and the land symbolizes the desire that manifests in us. So it is written that nothing is reveals in its true form, but only in its relation to the opposite. Light out of darkness, good out of evil, and so on. If we enter into another society, in any other relationship, first we don't understand. It seems bad to us, but gradually we get accustomed to it. What does that mean? We learn the circumstances, the conditions whereby contact is made. Blow and inclusion. And this happens in all things in life. This means that any quality of ours, any sensation of ours, it exists on the basis of two opposites. The opposite and the equivalence. And when you combine the two together in a correct manner, it results in harmony. Just as minor and major in music, lightness and darkness, bitter and sweet, you can't have one without the other. Otherwise, the other the other would not be felt at all. In everything that we do, we absolutely must feel the opposite, the resistance and the mutual equivalence, or the mutual goal of these two opposite qualities. The same is true with respect to spiritual work. We have the right line and the left line. Both of them stem from the Creator. We've drawn this many, many times before. The right line and the left line. The left line is the quality of reception. The right line is the force, the quality of bestowal. And we build our rungs, our degrees. There are 125 of them. Rungs on this ladder, on our ascent. And we begin to build it from the lowest degree, which is 0, toward bringing together these two qualities, the quality of bestowal, love, and the quality of reception. On the level at which we're able to bring them together and combine them, we rise to that degree. So here, good and evil have been balanced at 5 grams, let's say, and here it's 10 kilograms. And here at this level, it's infinite. In other words, everything that we have from evil and from good, it's all being actualized in one single whole. But all the preceding steps, it's only done partially. Right now, we want to find our first degree. And at this degree, of course, we feel both good and evil. We spoke about the fact that on the one hand, we have disturbances. On the other hand, the light, it is the Creator's help. That's what disturbances are. It depends on how we perceive them. But we must bring these two qualities together and never destroy either of them. Otherwise, we're not going to advance. Everything in the world exists so that it would be without discarding anything, without destroying anything, but using it, help to combine these two things correctly within. And any quality is attained from its opposite. Today, all we know is our ego. So that's what the only thing we know. But what is the opposite of the ego? How can we find anything about that particular quality? This is why all of our all the opposite qualities, all the qualities that are inherent in us, they're meant for us to use them to come to the opposite. And we must utilize every single one of them, every single thing that we feel. This is an essential way of approaching life. This results in a person having a good, even, correct attitude to himself, to everything that happens in life. He feels friendliness to everyone else. He feels the correct attitude to everyone else. You can't do anything that happens. It comes from the same source. The first thing you need to do is accept it as something that's supposed to happen. You need to justify it, and then afterwards, without perceiving it, taking it personally, abstracting from it in a way, I need to figure out how can I make use of it. How can I turn it into utilize it correctly? The Creator created us with the light as an imprint of itself, the way that a seal makes an imprint. Therefore, all the qualities that exist in the upper light, these qualities exist in the desire. They were taken from it and were mirrored below. So these are the qualities of bestowal right here. And here there are the qualities of reception, and they are opposite to one another. And by studying our conditions, our qualities correctly, our impulses, we can try to imagine in the general light of the Creator, which shines on us, we can start ascending upward to it, turning, transforming our qualities of reception into qualities of bestowal. Nothing can be attained if not by completing the opposites, balancing the opposites, juxtaposing them together, just as light and darkness, cold and heat, and so on. So the question is, how can we aspire to the Creator, to the qualities of bestowal? What is the opposite quality from which we can do that? I don't have an aspiration toward Him. I don't have enough of it. I'm always getting distracted at all kinds of corporeal matters. I have a lot of disturbances. How can I aspire to the Creator in a way that nothing would distract me, so that I would always be in this state? And my entire corporeal life, I would feel something that, like it's a stream that's pushing me forward. Even if it's disturbing me, it's still helping me get to where I want to go. How can I get to that place? There is a very simple solution. Only by hating my current state of being parted. Only if I feel in my present state that I am deprived of something very great. I need to suffer from the fact that I am in the state that I am in today, and see my encounter with the Creator as something very sweet, very great, very pleasurable. Then to the extent that I feel the current state that I'm in as negative and His state as positive, to that extent I will develop an aspiration toward Him. The force with which I will aspire, it will be exactly equal to that difference between the two potentials, to the extent that my aspiration to meeting the Creator will be greater, and my current state in my eyes will be smaller. Therefore, it's impossible to achieve this meeting with the Creator until we begin to feel our current state as the most flawed, the worst possible state. But the most important thing then is to not to run away from this state, not to escape from it. When I find myself in it, all I want to do is get rid of it, to leave, to go and have some fun, to party, or just to take a pill and knock myself out. But these states are given to me for a reason, so that out of these states, the worst states of them, the worst kinds of states, so that from them I can start aspiring toward Him. And that's how I'll be able to advance. Therefore, we need a group, we need systematic studies, support, constant support from the environment, which would give us the importance of this goal. Such great importance that all our current states, even those that have felt that maybe they may have felt terrible to us, that may not have felt terrible, that we suddenly see them as horrible, absolutely horrible. If I see the difference between me and the Creator as 1 gram, only 1 gram, or the distance between a tiny distance of 1 millimeter, I want these distances to seem to me tens of thousands of tons or kilometers, that much greater. This all depends on my perception. but I need to perceive, to sense myself and him as at complete opposites in terms of where we are, our states, in order to have a great power of, great force of aspiration toward him. On the other hand, I need great support, because if I see this great distance between us, I'm not going to have any strength to continue moving toward him. Therefore, our advancement needs to contain these two components. On the one hand, from a small distance between us, which really is pretty small. It's one step, but we simply can't make this step. We can't take it. We need to imagine as though it's this tremendous distance between us, so that we would have great suffering from the fact that we don't have it. We're not united with him. On the other hand, we need to have the confidence that we are capable of taking that step with only a single leap, if only we do it together. In other words, whatever may happen to us, everything is perceived exclusively within us. That's really not even the problem. And that's subjective perception. The thing is that we have a group that supports us, and we have all the tools necessary in order to study and get inspired. We have all these things. The problem is there is a difference in qualities. Advancing toward the Creator means to change yourself. And this change within myself, I need to determine what does that mean. We find him in the group. We always come back to our means, because it's only in the group that I can see how connected or disconnected I am from them, to the extent of which I understand or don't understand how important or unimportant it is to me, how I can't even stomach it. And it is precisely from these states that I can clarify what the relationship that I can have with the Creator at the same time. In this small lab that we built among ourselves, it's like the training ground for us, at which we practice our relationship to the Creator. That's why it is written, from love of others to love of the Creator. And this is how we can advance. Herein lies, in the work in the group, the drawing closer, to the extent that a person cuts off a piece of the ego, then another piece of the ego, in order to get closer to the group. He starts neglecting himself. He bows his head in order to agree to come between them, as the smallest among them, someone who's this invincible element that no one can even see. Therein lies the principle of the sacrifice, the so-called sacrifice, when he sacrifices himself, his ego, his I, gradually, bit by bit, part by part, and he enters into the group. In these movements, there are two states. He always feels rejection, the emergence of new desires, of new evidence that this is not necessary to do this. And here, again, as we spoke about disturbances, he needs to understand that any disturbance that conceals from him the path and the upper goal, the higher goal, and attainment, complete connection with the upper force in nature, this rejection, it can be twofold. It can be as concealing the end goal, or it can be drawing closer, attracting. The so-called shadow, which conceals him, hides him, and on the contrary, reveals everything. This is what we learn in our wisdom, that when you make a screen, on the one hand you conceal, but you conceal your ego, and thanks to that, above yourself, above this screen, you build a quality that's completely opposite to it, meaning to the extent that we this is our ego. Suppose it's this big, and I'm only able to build a screen on this part, this tiny part here. I create a screen. I build a screen.
Only on this small part. I ascend, elevate above this screen, the ego. And then all of this ego, this whole egoism, inverts to a place where I receive the upper light, the sensation of the Creator. This is where he's revealed. This is called a screen, masach and or chozer. A screen and or chozer, the reflected light. So all this turns into the opposite quality. From darkness it became light. I sacrificed my egoism in order to not receive in it, but with the help of it to bestow. Specifically this, and in this egoistic thickness I receive the revelation of the Creator, and my thickness here, or height, Rav writes, it turned into the light part, the bestowing part. And in this way we correct ourselves and advance. Therefore, there are several actions here. One is to perform upon yourself Tzimtzum Aleph, the first restriction. Then we create a screen. The degree to which we can load our egoistic desires onto the screen in their opposite to connect with others, to draw near them, to that degree we create our Kli. There where the light of the Creator is found. All of this is built only with respect to others, because we can't otherwise judge if we're in egoism or some other sort of perception. Or if we're deluded, self-deluded, or if we're actually moving towards bestowal. So a person writes, when somebody looks at how much people are suffering from the upper governance in the world, that's why Bala Sulam is writing here, we see all the suffering in our world, and they don't delight as they should, as one should from an upper good governing force. It's difficult for a person to say, that the upper force is good. And he sends the lower people only good. It's very difficult to justify the Creator that treats his creatures in this way. And it's very difficult, personally, with what's happening to us. It's very difficult to justify his behavior to us. That each of us has a lot of problems with the Creator. But in general, nothing changes. We're still in the same state as it was before. The upper light fills everything. We're inside of it now. All of our motion is within us. So we would tune ourselves correctly to treat the group differently, the friends differently. And in this way, everything will happen. You don't have to perform any actions besides this inner sort of change, something small within you, and everything is built on this. Nothing is demanded from us, no mechanical actions. We can stay in the family, at work, it doesn't matter where, which government. None of that makes any difference. The only thing is this inner tuning to that which we want to change our attitude to the fact that we're actually in the upper light. We're surrounded by absolute light and absolute kindness. We're just missing the inversion of our egoism into its opposite form, and then we'll also feel that. So we don't have to perform any actions, you don't have to give things out, handouts, run around and do good deeds. You don't have to do that. The light will do that. We within ourselves have to reform. We don't have to change anything. Not economics, not technology, nothing. Just ourselves. Inside of ourselves to perform this revolution. And only. And then we'll immediately feel that we, it turns out, are not in darkness, but in absolute light. But in order to pass into this light, we have to feel ourselves crossing through this suffering to get to it. So we see the global problems that are there. The things that are getting worse and worse, that the Creator is demanding a change in the masses. Things that came already many thousands of years ago. And so those problems that we had a long time ago, these repulsions from one another, rejections, a loss of interest, this, we have to understand it's all a game from above. If we can just take ourselves, get a hold of ourselves, and it's just and cross this psychological barrier, and it's only psychological, there's nothing more to it than that, then we'll suddenly find ourselves in the sensation of light and kindness and love which permeates the entire world. So everything is prepared for us. We just need some effort on our part. And if a person correctly understands what's happening with him, then every second of his life is full of these opportunities to redo himself more and more and more, and then suddenly, as we said before, he starts speaking with the Creator. He inside of him begins to switch desire, egoistically, connects others more and more, points of view, contempt for others, weakness, but a person continues to hold himself to hear what the Creator is doing with him, what he's saying to him, and with respect to that, tries to answer correctly. He enters a battle with the Creator. This is called "My sons defeated me." When any problems, from the smallest personal to the greatest global problems, we perceive everything as His call. And on this contrast between the light and the shade, bitterness and sweetness, we create a new organ of perception, and on each level, each ascent on this ladder, there's a greater and greater contrast, a stronger one, and that's why there we create new qualities, we perceive new qualities with respect to the Creator. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to feel this upper world without this contrast, this new world. So the attainment of the world of infinity, when you have an enormous, enormous evil and an enormous goodness, connect together. We take everything that can only exist inside of us, all of us together, we undergo, we transition from the sensation of evil to the sensation of good, because we're not working with it egoistically. In general, the method is psychological. There's nothing new in it. But the thing is that if in regular psychology we are working with a person and trying to teach him in some way to improve his life, here we are working with the light that corrects us. So it's not that I can redo myself or elevate myself to the first restriction and then above that to the screen and then to the egoism that turns up and turns into bestowal. It's not that I do this myself. I invoke the upper light upon myself. And that's the difference between psychology and our psychology, the upper one. Because here we are redoing our nature. Psychology works inside of our nature, and we work above it. So we are redoing our most basic qualities, our most basic egoistic qualities to their opposites. This is the key to our entire principle. If this is clear, then from this must come the clarity of the force of the group, with which I cannot do this. Because I can never define what is the light, what is motion towards the Creator, what is the manifestation of His quality, but only the group shows to me whether I connect to it and am closer to the Creator, or by distancing myself from it, then I'm farther from the Creator. By trying to destroy selfish qualities, then I'm closer to Him. Or I go and I go with the flow of whatever random thoughts pop into my head, then I'm farther from Him. If a person is within himself, he's farther from the Creator. But if he's within a group, he's closer. For this reason, we are given this group. For this reason, the shattering took place that we studied, so that we would start to gather ourselves together from these shards, understanding what is spiritual qualities and what are not spiritual qualities. So in our world and distance from it. So I can work in our world, in those desires, intentions in which we are now. On this level, I can already work with my correction. But then why do we not feel anything in our actions? We can do for a long, long time to aspire towards one another, to try to gather a group, but in the end nothing happens, because we have to undergo a path which is called the time of preparation. This is just like with children. When you have, let's say, the first 20 years of the life is spent on becoming adults. They're not really adults, but they can already begin their lives. And after that, we have the next level. The next, when we feel, here we're working in the group, and above it we continue to work in the group, but here's the group and the surrounding light, and here is the Or Pnimi. So below we have the Or Makif, the surrounding light, and above we have Or Pnimi, the inner light. This is the difference. Of course, there's a great difference between working in the darkness during the time of preparation, always with the questions. But this is the strongest work, because here you're working completely not understanding at all what you're doing. And truly, here on these steps that we go through, we perform the most important work. Just like children, when they grow, in this way they form the entire basis of their next level of existence, the rest of their life. The way that they'll live their first 20 years to prepare himself from a good environment, good actions, intentions, understanding of what's happening. In this way, he'll continue to exist in our world. But in the spiritual world, until he goes through these years, this time of preparation, he will not enter the upper world. So this time of preparation is still a question. How long do we have to be in it? And years don't exist. It depends only on us. We see, even today, that many come to the group, new people, and they are much better prepared than when we came to the group. They sort of have an inner preparation. They perceive everything quickly, tune in very quickly. It's easier for them. Time changes everything. And so, this time only depends on us. We can compress it to only on the intensity of our efforts will depend how quickly we'll overcome this phase, this stage. So it's very important to us, before our studies, we have to see what we're studying for. It's not that I just come and I want to hear, some smart stuff, the structure of the upper world, or the book of Zohar, or articles, or whatever. This isn't
средством привлечения.
This isn't what we're talking about. This is just the means of attracting the upper light.
Я сижу
In other words, what am I studying for? So I'm sitting here, in this place,
с своими товарищами.
with my friends,
Между нами образуется особая связь.
and between us,
Особая связь, она должна быть такой, которая бы поднимала наверх
there has to be a quality which elevates us above
наши общие желания. Общие.
our common desires. Only our common desires. Personal desires means egoistic.
Это уже
Common
желание
are already desired to bestow.
к соединению. Когда я поднимаю эти желания наверх, это называется ман.
When I elevate them above, it's called man.
Действительно, я
When I elevate them,
сразу же на нас свыше не сходит
then immediately from above,
играет немножко.
the upper light comes and corrects us and brings us closer.
Такими, а здесь мы немножко ближе, а здесь еще ближе.
Here we were closer and closer and closer
Вместе в точку.
until we come to a single point.
Все вместе.
When we unite in a single point,
В точку сразу же это уже не
immediately,
раскрылось на нашем эгоизме, вот на этом вот, который
which revealed in this egoism here on the bottom, only we gathered it together,
мы выглядим как будто в одной точке. Но на самом деле под нами находится огромный эгоизм, над которым мы поднялись. И тогда мы раскрываем себя
and then
свет
you can reveal this upper light,
в виде ормакив, который
and
влияет на нас и
you
изменяет,
can
а в виде ормакив.
be not influenced by the Or Makif, the surrounding light, which somehow affects us and changes us, but by the Or Pnimi, the inner light.
А для того, чтобы
And what do we need the books for?
собираемся,
It's so when we get together,
когда мы вместе собираемся,
when we get together,
мы должны читать о том, что происходит здесь.
we need to read about what's happening here.
Вот книжка,
Here's a book.
она нам рассказывает о том, что происходит.
And it tells us about what's happening in the upper world.
И мы не знаем о том, что на самом деле там происходит. Мы ведь не угадываем, мы не
We,
знаем,
do,
что же это за действие.
we don't understand what it actually means,
Себя оттуда высший свет.
but we get from there the upper light.
Поэтому есть я, плюс группа,
So here, plus the group,
да,
plus the book,
и это необходимые условия для нашей работы.
and this is what's necessary for our work.
Между мной и группой должны быть помехи,
Between me,
вопросы.
I need the problems,
А вот между нами
and the group, I have obstacles.
и книжкой
But between
никаких помех и никаких
us and the book, there are no questions or problems.
понимаю или не понимаю ничего.
Doesn't matter.
Ничего не понимаю.
I don't understand anything anyway,
Что происходит
because it's talking about something that happened on the next level, in the spiritual world.
только читаю слова. Но это достаточно мне,
I don't know what's happening there. I'm just reading letters, words, but it's enough for me to evoke the upper light. Invoke.
нами и книга.
So between us and the book is purely formal, and it doesn't matter how much
Сколько он понимает,
a person knows or understands.
совершенно не важно.
It completely doesn't matter.
Сколько из вот этого его объединения
It's important for us in the unity with a group
вызывает в нем желание, напряжение, подъем
to
к чему?
how much it
Чувству отдачи.
inspires him to attract to become like the force of bestowal.
От этого свойства отдачи.
If he asks for this force of bestowal, if he aspires towards it,
Обманывает себя,
he doesn't lie to himself.
пытается себя не обмануть. Это
He tries to not lie to himself. This is what he determines through the group,
пытается себя не обмануть, что именно этого он бы хотел.
trying to
Чем я вне
understand that only this is what he wants.
проявляет в себя, что значит творец.
And within him, he understands what is the creator. It's the quality of bestowal to come. And what does it mean to come closer to him? To come closer to this quality in myself. To
Когда он задается
evoke it in myself.
Хотя оно маленькое, хотя оно обманчивое, он сам не понимает вообще, чего просит.
Although it's small, he still doesn't understand what it means. How can he ask something that's against him?
Постепенное устремление, когда он как ребенок
And that gradual,
не умеет разговаривать.
like a child
Правильно все.
that's kind of babbling.
Конечно, а все остальные никто.
That's babbling. He's saying things that people don't understand. His mother understands, of course, but nobody else understands.
На самом деле,
And we're like the same thing, and we're sort of talking like we're together. All of us are together, demanding. Where's what we want?
мы ничего не хотим.
Even if we don't want anything,
Понимает это,
he hears this correctly,
зная наше состояние.
knowing our state,
Можем ничего сделать.
from which we can't do anything else.
Младенец, когда он, в принципе, ничего не говорит, но мать понимает,
It's
что надо нам.
it's like a child, a small child that's saying that something nobody understands except the mother. This is called a prayer or man.
Есть ли у нас подходящая песня для этого?
Do we have an appropriate song for this?
Кто-то помнит? О просьбе.
Does anybody remember about the demand? I can't hear you.
Латравим.
Tfilat Ravim, prayer of the many. Do we have that?
Это молитва
This is a prayer
группы, так называемая.
of the group, it's called. A common prayer, a common request.
Я когда-то дал такой урок,
Once I gave a lesson,
интересно получилось, что он просто взял
and it
эти
turned
слова,
out that he sort of
и
took
они как-то
these words
как стихотворение в песню.
and they kind of went in as if by song lyrics. Our composer, Arkady Dukhin. Here's a song.
יש חיסרון שנובע מזה שחסר לי, או חיסרון מזה שחסר לאחרים. הסבל האמיתי הוא מזה שהאדם לא יכול ולא רוצה להעניק לחברים. יש הרבה מדרגות ותת מדרגות, בהם מבחנים רבים ושונים. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, כמוך זה פער שנוצר עם השנים. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. ולא ניתן למחוק את הפער, אפשר רק לקוות שנעלה מעליו. אל תאמין בעצמך עד יום מותך, חשוב שתתמיד בדרך שלב אחר שלב. ולאחר המאמץ לאיכות פתאום תלך מתפרצת הטינה. אתה גדל וגם השוני גודל, בשנייה יכולה לפרוץ מלחמה. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. האדם עסוק בעצמו, אוכל, מין, משפחה, ילדים, כסף, כבוד, שליטה, עבודה. נהנה לו מהמילוי ולא שואל אפילו את עצמו בשביל מה כל זה, כל זה בשביל מה. דרוש כאן תיקון למה ששבור, ורק אז הבורא יתגלה. מה שנשבר זה הקשר בינינו, ואם נתחבר נעלה. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך אם רק תדאג לאחרים. תפילת רבים הכוונה, תפילה עבור רבים. אתה תצא עוד מהחושך.
Называется такая просьба, когда я прошу за других.
It's called the kind of request when I ask for others, not for myself. When I demand for others, not for myself. That's a demand for bestowal. And only then does the person come out of the dark towards the light. That's the meaning of the refrain. You will only come out of the light when you start caring for others. Questions?
Friends, I just want to say that the second day of the Congress always demands active demand. Here is where we need the effort. The first one is when, we're all on an ascent, but now we're being tested by who and what we are. So we ask you, please, go.
What, you feel disturbances? That's a good thing. I'm happy to hear it.
Hi, Rav. I'm from Lithuania, Viktoras. I want to say a huge thank you for you, to you and everybody from Bnei Baruch, that you brought here the spirit of Bnei Baruch. This is a great gift. To the whole world from you. Thank you. I wanted to ask the following question. We are working in a group in order to change ourselves. And when the light acts on me, within me there's a change. And then I see a changed world. Then the world changes for me. I have the following question. Recently we were talking a lot about work in the direction of the 99%. If I am changed and I see a changed world, why do I have to change these 99%?
If they weren't suffering, then you might have been correct. If they weren't looking for a way out of their state, then of course we would never go to them. The wisdom of Kabbalah has been hidden for thousands of years. It was revealed for the first time 5,773 years ago. Then it was concealed once again. Then it was revealed in ancient Babylon 3,700 years ago. It was practically not utilized at the time. It was concealed again, and today it's being revealed to us. This is a process that took thousands of years, gradual process. Now this third revelation, it's characterized by being global. There is a serious demand in the world to know how to continue existing, how to continue living. Humanity finally realized that it's existing for no reason. What is the purpose of our life? The form of a protein matter existing, so it exists by itself. What about and the suffering that we all feel? The sufferings, they evoke in us the question, why are we suffering? What is it all for? So until these questions have been revealed, triggered by suffering, and the breakdown of our families, of our society, of our culture, of science, and today the economy, until this happened, we never came out to the masses. Even today, we say that if a person doesn't need anything, then don't tell them anything. Let him live. Let him live normally, peacefully. The Creator gave him desires on certain level. He satisfies them. He has his own house. He has a backyard. He has a little bit of a garden. He has his own lot. He satisfied it, so don't touch him. You have no right to touch him. But if a person suffers, then try to give him something that would give him an answer to the question, his question, why he's suffering. And what if we have suffering in the global level? Our kids are in schools that are in horrible conditions. The youth is drowning in depression and drugs and suicide. There is no employment for people. Our values of our lives, they're breaking down, they're crashing completely. So now we can talk about the purpose, and the cause for everything that's happening, which is our ego, that by changing our attitude even a little bit, changing these things, we can come to a much better life. So we give them practical advice as to how we can improve our state, and only in places where people have the deficiency for it. This is why we disseminate Kabbalah, only in places where it's necessary, where the people truly have the desire, the lack.
If I can, the second part of the question, as you drew, when we're working in a group, together with the friends, when we're going through this preparation period, if there's no even minimum preparation, do I, in my interaction with the friends, am I damaging it?
We need to study how to do this, and this is why we have special courses for the educators and lecturers, those who work with the masses. We have special courses, training courses, where everyone who participates all over in the entire country, people who do this work, they must complete these training courses. We have, I think, 27 branches. Let's say 20. I don't remember the exact number. In 20 different cities. Every branch has from 15 to 20 to 40, 50 men. We even have branches with 300 people. Well, you see. And we obligate all of them to take these courses, absolutely everyone. Everyone needs to complete these courses and to always to be involved. It helps tremendously. First of all, it shapes this person correctly, and in this way he begins to connect to others and to mold himself correctly with respect to everyone. I would say it's the most effective means of one's personal spiritual advancement is dissemination. But these courses, they're already online, available online, yes? They're being translated right now, as we speak? You repeat that?
Where there's a recording now of the lessons.
At the Congress,
and we
we've
them to the
opened
lectures.
the registration for these training courses for mass
And
educators
we're
for the
educating
masses.
the masses for the objects of the integrated world. Everybody that's not in the social networks, so we don't know them. So there's a course there, and we'll graduate those that successfully passed the lessons.
Even exams.
Yes, we have about 400 people, 100 something Russia, and many other countries.
Join them.
Берите пример с московской группы.
Take an example from the Moscow group.
Just one, I'd like to add something. We just had a lecture with Shorayev, and this was an amazing thing just to work out. There were such questions that came up that I haven't heard them. I haven't heard such great questions in a long time. Rav, I also have a question about suffering. I still can't understand which suffering pushes me or the group, which develops me. Let's say if all my friends were fired, I doubt that my group would be stronger. So the question is why, now being unemployed, I see the opposite. I see that they have more problems and they're not being pushed towards finding where these problems are coming from.
This is our ego, and it feels suffering. This suffering is always increasing, and the suffering comes in many different forms. Why is this suffering? Why do they still push a person to search for the meaning of life? Because he starts asking the question, why do I need to suffer? Ultimately, it can lead a person to suicide. What does Kabbalah do here? Kabbalah tells a person you need to replace this suffering to a different kind of suffering, but still suffering, just of a different kind. This is called the suffering of love. When you love someone and you aspire toward them, but you're not yet there, you haven't yet made contact with this person, or you're being rejected a little bit, or there's a distance that's separating you and you'll only be able to meet them after some time, then there is a great desire that arises as a result to get closer, to see them, to embrace them, but you're unable to do so. Is this sensation suffering or no? What do you think? Why not? You have all kinds of cases in history and all kinds of romance novels and all kinds of literature and art that has been written on the matter, in theater pieces. This is suffering. But this suffering is sweet to us. We would not want to rid ourselves of them. Yes? Am I right? Well, I can't really imagine them happening this day and age, but I remember myself as a young man, and I imagined to myself that it was pleasant. On the one hand, you love, and you aspire, you strive and you're full of hopes that you're going to find and embrace your beloved, but you suffer from the fact that it's not happening at that moment. But still, it's sweet kind of suffering. So you have suffering that stem from egoism, and this suffering is the so-called the shade of Sitra Achra, a bad shade that conceals all the goodness in the world. And there is suffering of when you aspire upward, onward, and you're inspired by it, and you're enlivened by it, and the light shines to you, the light of love and the encounter with the light. It shines on you, and here you have only darkness. This is the difference. We need to replace the suffering of our world, of what we have today. And everyone has tremendous problems and hardships that will only continue to grow. And we need to help the world replace as quickly as possible this suffering to the suffering of the aspiring toward goodness and love and light. And that's when we're going to discover that the suffering does not disappear. If you meet your beloved and your aspiration toward this person disappears that you've had before you met, then what's going to happen? You meet them and you're disillusioned. A minute, 2 minutes later, you don't care anymore. You can leave, right? So on the contrary, what we need here is the suffering, this draw, this attraction, this appetite, this hunger. You need it to remain. At the same time, and at the same time, you could derive pleasure from it. Imagine you're very hungry, you start eating, and gradually your appetite disappears, your hunger is gone, and you no longer feel the pleasure from the food. But what if the hunger wouldn't go away? We need to preserve our suffering, only redo them. So that's why, under no circumstances, should you ask for ask of the Creator anything but correction. We don't want Him to remove our suffering at all. We want Him to change it for us. Instead of this suffering, we would feel a different kind of suffering, the draw to go forward. Then we will live with the spirit, animation. But I'm not inspiring you, am I?
No, I'm just trying to imagine myself a state in which, that a person has some problems. So I come up to him and I say,
No, that's not what I said to you.
okay, go to the courses.
Here, take these courses, and then we'll speak afterwards. Be well.
Hello, I'm Tatiana from Kiev. If I may, one question. All of us strive towards unity, and women can't unite. You're saying that women can't unite? So how can we come to one single organ if the women can't unite ever?
The men unite together, and in this they connect the women to them. They bring unity to women as well. This is how it works in the spiritual system. The women constitute a separate and negative particle. I'm sorry for saying negative. We can say positive. It doesn't matter. I don't mean in negative in a bad sense, in a negative sense. But the men unite them together. They are united through the men, between themselves. And in all societies it works this way, and it has been this way throughout history. The men came out of the house and communicated together. Even today, the men are sitting in bars together. They organize all these clubs. Although today, nowadays, it's not very prevalent, but it always took place. All these unifications and connections in societies, associations, they all happened through men. And the women connected to themselves through the men. This is nature. The way nature is structured. By the way, in the system, the woman she's the bearer of the desire, and the man simply connects this desire to others. So the woman here, she's the foundation, she's Malchut, she's the foundation of nature. Why do you think that just because you can't hug each other, go ahead and hug already? What, I'm stopping you from it? I'm not preventing you. We're going to have a workshop coming up after this. The men are going to be sitting around the perimeter and watching women hug. What do you think about that? What do you think? Is that natural? We're taking an example from nature. And we're trying to emulate it, to be similar to it. That's a guarantee of our happiness, of our success, only by emulating nature, being equivalent to it. If I say anything that's anti-natural, then get me off the stage right away. I'm being serious. Our entire method is built only on studying nature and showing nature to the people. But sometimes people don't understand. They haven't yet developed to a point of being able to understand. So we're silent. We don't say anything. 15, 20 years ago, when we spoke, they didn't believe us at all. Today, they're beginning to agree with us. And they're beginning to understand that yes, we're right. But you should not say to a person something that he's not ready to accept. He needs to be developed enough. He needs to be ripe to hear it. But everything we say, we take only from nature. If we turn to biologists, sociologists, not all the modern kind that are trying to build something from themselves, devise something of their own. But those who really do study nature, then they would confirm that our entire method is purely natural, 100% natural.
Thank you. Can I ask a second question? There's none else besides him. Obstacles are relations with ourselves, between ourselves. They come to help us go towards the goal. How do I hear what the upper force is telling me? Specifically, this obstacle in this world. How do I know what they want from me by sending this exact obstacle?
What was the end again?
How do I know exactly what this obstacle wants from me?
So that above this disturbance, you would not forget about the upper force and aspire toward it.
And is there one universal prescription, or each obstacle needs to be worked with separately?
Don't work with it. You need to immediately rise above it. Don't tension to the disturbance itself, that it's something bad here and there. It doesn't matter what it is. The key is to rise above it. The disturbance came, and as though it's not a disturbance at all, as though it's a prop, a springboard from which you leap upward. Try to view disturbances like that. You'll see that they're made specifically for it. It's psychological. From a psychological standpoint, it seems like a disturbance to us, but it's not a disturbance. It's a springboard.
So how can I hear exactly what they're trying to tell me, what I should correct?
You don't know that now, but if you start working this way with disturbances, you will see that what's being corrected in you as you in this work. And from these corrected qualities, you will begin to learn the Creator's language.
Thank you very much.
Transistor gebaut mit Anode und Kathode.
Yes.
Здравствуйте.
Hello,
Смирна из Франкфурта.
Smirna from
Мы
Frankfurt. Today we built a transistor. Here's a transistor with, yes, there it is.
So there is our transistor, there's the plus, minus.
With the iode and the cathode. Yep, exactly, so plus.
I don't want to go into the specific names of these because it may confuse people.
Plus minus, male and female. With this, we created the frequency of the middle line.
The middle line is what we can activate here. The tiny signal. Here we have a plus and minus there, and they're at a tremendous distance. And here we discover a great signal, thousands of times greater than this tiny one here. This is the entrance, and this is the exit. The principle of amplification is built on this. And when I open up a tiny valve, for instance, why do I need the cathode? I'm building a valve here with a little bit of a. As a tiny person can turn this valve and allow a huge stream of something to pass through this pipe. This tiny hand, it can turn the valve and the huge stream will flow through.
You're saying that today I felt very strongly today, and I would like to continue feeling it. I want to take this feeling with me, also when the Congress is over, so that this transistor, it needs an outlet, which is called the group, and I am a woman. And after your many explanations, I myself became a transistor. And for myself, one text became very real when we were talking about black and white. The white has to be delicate in order not to corrupt the black.
So what's the question, Frau?
I want for you to explain to me what our transistor is with respect to a transistor and the male and female, why the white has to be so that the black wouldn't dirty it.
Because then the ego would infiltrate our aspiration and stop us from advancing. I need to guard my white, my altruistic qualities, my connection with the group, my drawing closer to them, to have as little ego in there as possible, as little of my own ego, because otherwise it would stop me. I would get confused. I would start relating to the group egoistically, to the group and to the creator, and as a result, I'm not going to get anywhere. That's why I need to worry about the white remaining white.
I'm still not satisfied with your answer.
It's difficult.
I'm saying that as a woman, in my outlook on life, because my desires overcome I feel that I'm perhaps damaging, or I'm perhaps using it as the poison of death.
I understand what you're saying.
I want to, but it's just not working for me.
I understand. She's saying that for men in the group, it's possible for them to verify themselves, to check themselves. A man in the group, he's as if protected. If I'm connected to the group, it's good. If I'm disconnected, it's bad. I can always check my attitude toward the Creator. But how can a woman check her attitude toward the Creator if she doesn't have the group? Is that the right answer?
Yes, exactly.
So you don't need any transistors for this. The answer is very simple. No, stay there, stay there. The answer is very simple. A man in a group needs to work hard, just as when he goes to a factory or to a construction site, he needs to work very hard, but he needs to bring his salary to you. And you, only with the desire to support them, to service them, to work in dissemination, to care that everything is good with them. This is not a secondary work. We know that if the work around the household wasn't completed, then there would be no humanity, would be no civilization. Just like a woman works in her house, so in the same way you work in a group. You care about them, you take care of things that they need. Try it and see. If you relate to them in this way, it will be great. And then you will advance, certainly. Regardless of how much they're advancing, to the extent that you will be contributing, you will be advancing, as though the group is perfect, even though it might not be that great, as though, seemingly not great. But when a woman contributes to the group, invests in the group, she receives from the group as though the group is in complete correction. Therefore, there is absolutely no obstacles before you to be connected with the Creator in this work that you do. You can go back home peacefully, in peace, but wait until we're done. Let him ask.
Ali, just a big request, please. Just ask a question. I always related to questions, like between men and women. They kind of always bothered me, these questions about men and women and their relationships or whatever at congresses. I understand we have to figure this stuff out. But in this Congress, they got an additional...
These are very important questions. I always have enough patience to answer them. Sometimes when there is something very specific, but if a woman wants to clarify the place of her work, where it is, we have to explain it to her. She's asking about her soul. You cannot possibly neglect it, especially when if it seems to you with your naked eye that they have no room to work.
Yes, this is what the question is about.
With your untrained eye. I'm being serious. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart. It's tremendous work. Everything depends on them, really. In our work, we depend entirely on them.
Well, I understand that you get that, but
if it weren't for your mom, what would have happened to you? In reality, it's the women who grow the group. They raise the group. If the group really does have a strong women's part, and that cares for the group will always be good.
Okay, so maybe I'll ask my question anyway. The question is more of a request. Maybe we can see it with a picture, and we see pictures of a person relating to a group, to the creator. Here's a new picture of women gathered around a circle, and within it there are groups of circles. And you have this little house that you made. Can you make a picture where there's a woman and a group and a creator and all of this together? A man, a woman, and a group? Yeah, of course.
You're saying I didn't draw that? Of course I did. We spoke about it. The women are on the outer circle. That's the women, and the inner circle is the men, which form a group. And this mutuality that the men complete, it consists of two parts. It comprises two parts. Imagine to yourself, the inner part, the desire is the women, the female part, and what unites them together is the male part. And these two components, they constitute their embryo, their mutual child that they create together. Like a man and a woman, they create a child together. And all of this is implanted into the future mother, the quality of Binah, the quality of bestowal, and that's where we grow together. The soul, everyone is part of it. No one has their own individual, isolated component. Whatever you contribute to it, that's where you feel it, the soul. All the desires of the female part are the female part, and the connection between them are the male part.
So practically, can I understand when this happened?
I don't understand.
When did this connection happen?
If this contact already happened, that means you already revealed the Creator at the first degree. So the women they've already given us this desire, but it's us, the men, who haven't been able to connect it yet.
Ah, okay, it's very clear now. Thank you. They don't let me ask.
What?
Hi, Rav. I'm very glad to see you here.
But it's been so many years.
You did such a great Congress here in Vilnius specifically. I have a question about a work in the group. At the lessons, we learn, study, and say that we talk about the greatness of the goal, the greatness of the Creator, and all of this is sort of understanding, discussion. And when in understanding we try to gather the points in the heart into a single whole, it works somehow weakly or it doesn't work at all. Like it said, the Creator doesn't look at our brains, He looks at our hearts. So the question is how, from our reason and understanding, to transfer the greatness of the goal and the Creator, everything that we aspire to, into sensation, into emotion so that it would evoke, it would bring us to tears. Every cell would tremble. When this happens in a group, it's an amazing effect. It's like, just a straight line to the goal, an exit from earthly boundaries. And this thing that we're trying to do here with the groups, this isn't the first year that we're doing here, and it's working wonderfully, but only then when we're able to attune ourselves in our sensations, our feelings. How do we do this? Do we talk about it? How can we make it felt? Here, we gathered, and now what do we do for it to pass from reason to emotion?
You see, these are questions that my teacher described in his first articles. And despite the fact that we would liked it if he had written more and with more feeling, they are written in a very kind of moderate style. Not too dry, but not especially emotional either. What can I add for me, for myself? What we're lacking is the greatness of the goal. If it was very great to us, very important to us, we would value, cherish every moment when we think about the goal, when we're connected to the goal, but we forget. Under the disturbances that come, we're always falling into them every second. We deviate from the goal. We need to implement, I don't even know how to put it, we need to institute in the group we need to reinforce our work, creating a greater importance of the goal in the group. How important it is for us to achieve greatness of the goal. This is our only freedom of choice, our only freedom of will, where the environment influences every one of us. We have no other means of raising ourselves above. Just like you're saying, sometimes I feel this and that. How can we have it happen? How can we have this feeling all the time? If this greatness of the goal burned in you, where you're always giving more, you're always clawing more further and further. If you had this vision, you would be sinking your teeth in the goal to always be in it. But since you don't have it, it comes and goes. You come to the lesson, and sometimes you're in it, sometimes you're focused, sometimes you're not. This is not your fault. This is the environment's fault, which includes you, because you don't cultivate this within you. In the environment, you always need to think about this. It's the most important thing. If there is greatness of the goal, which people only get from the environment, there is nothing else. We can't change anything else within us. You put yourself under the influence of the group, and the group needs to influence you accordingly. If it does, that's it. That's all. That's the whole work. That's what determines the end result. You cannot make any acceleration within you on your own. Your acceleration, the frequency with which you work, and remember the goal, and make the necessary actions. It all depends on the importance, and that depends on the group. You entered into the group, you've put yourself under the influence, that's it, everything else happens automatically. That's what Baal Salam writes in his article, The Freedom.
How can we ignite the group so that the group would burn with this? So you can ignite from the group itself later.
I don't know. You need to buy the friends. That's what's written. Buy yourself a friend.
Купить, то есть
Buy them.
завлекал,
What does that mean?
какими-то маленькими
Entice them,
хорошими подарками, я не знаю чем. Чем только
give them gifts, be nice to them, do whatever you can.
время об этом говорить.
Draw them into this work so that they will always talk about the importance of the goal. I can't do this for you. The group needs to do this.
Я должен давать
It wouldn't be right if it came to me. I can only give advice.
чего вести.
In reality, I'm not even supposed to lead anything. I need to only give advice. And these seminars that we're doing now, I'm leading them. In reality, you need to be developing them, and you need to be implementing them on your own.
Я еще буду показывать, как это делать.
I'm still going to be here to show you how to do it, but in essence, this is your work. This is the group's work.
Rav, so these seminars, already for 2 years I'm having these seminars. And I'm always igniting them and, inspiring the group, and it moves people to tears, and at the end everything works, but you're saying that the group itself has to do it without.
Что это делаете вы? Неважно.
It doesn't matter that you do it. That doesn't matter.
Но в принципе она
That's good, but in essence, the group needs to reply in turn
человек должен подставить
and do the same. Again, the person needs to put himself under the group's influence, receive from the group the importance of the goal, and to that extent that he does, he moves towards the goal, he flies towards the goal. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Now I'll have an announcement, then we'll have a song. Rav will be signing books right here. Everybody that wants Rav to sign a book, they will sign them here. During this time, we'll have about a 20-minute break. Or, yes, when we'll reorganizing the entire hall around the women, and then within we'll have circles of men. Alright, so we'll have an exactly 20-minute break. We ask everybody to be on time. And now, a song.
Learning to unite. Learning to unite. Let your heart speak. Let your heart listen. Shoulder to shoulder. You won't be alone. Love is around the deepest ocean. Together we're drawn in. I won't let go. It feels so good to be a part of you. This is what their life should be. Learning to unite, living in the light, win this fight, and everything's gonna be alright. Learning to unite, learning to unite, living in the light, win this fight, and everything's gonna be alright. Learning to unite. Dearest friends, thank you for